welcome to a Ramblogue. It's been a while. We've not. I think we did. We do one. We did one for when we talked about Arcane. I stuck that up as a Ramblogue, but we haven't really been doing regular Ramblogues for a while. Might bring them back more regularly because there's a few things I want to talk about that I haven't had a chance. So who knows? But this one, we're chatting about Doctor Who. I'm here with the man himself, Chris Billingham. How does it feel to be the new? How does it feel to be the new Doctor Who?
Why didn't I say that when you said, "What are you up to tomorrow?" Let's. Do you want to do a Ramblogue about David Tennant and Doctor Who news? Why didn't I just say Ramblogues can be done solo, mate? Jog on, do it yourself.
The thing is, Chris, genuinely, my first thought was, I'll just record a quick Ramblogue tomorrow. And then I thought, I think Chris would be mad if I did that on my own for two reasons. One, he'd like to have that conversation, like, in general. Like, I felt like the next time I picked up the phone to speak to you, we were going to have this conversation regardless of whether microphones were turned on.
Well, we've been having it all week over WhatsApp.
yeah, we've done it all week over WhatsApp. But I also thought, you'd be sad not to be included in a Ramblogue, especially if it's just like a quick sort of 30-minute thing. So we're talking about the Doctor Who news. There's been plenty of it. Obviously, if you want to hear us talk about the new Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, you can indeed go over to iTunes or Spotify or where all good podcasts are sold and listen to this week's episode of Nothing But Static, where we do a whole bit on Ncuti, which we did and recorded prior to this weekend's ridiculous announcements. So
yes,
and all the stuff that's come from filming. Should we start? Should we not do immediate filming spoilers and just talk about the general news and then do a cut-off point for people who don't want to know what's been seen on set?
Yeah, talk about the general news, because I do love, as plenty of people have pointed out, Russell T Davies in that BAFTA interview was like, "We're gonna go quiet now. We're gonna hide away until Jodie's regenerated, and then like the next week, just dropping news that in most Doctor Who fans' minds will overshadow any excitement for the Centenary special."
But the thing is, it's not like the Centenary special is so far away that I do find it to be a weird argument that Russell is like shitting on it. They announced Jodie before Peter had his final episode, and they were putting up like special like pictures and press stuff and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that was fine. All prior to Peter's last episode airing. That's just one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, all of it's fine, and yeah, I think at the end of the day they're filming; they can't help announce stuff. But anyway, we've Dan, to remind the people what they've announced.
So this week they announced there's two major news stories. First, announced earlier the weekend, is David Tennant and Catherine Tate returning to the show as the Doctor, incarnation ? Unknown, and Donna, and the statement that was put out was very cryptic. Is that the best way to describe it? Was it how would because he kind of said, "Oh, is it a regeneration? What did he say? He said, okay, here it is. Maybe it's a missing story, a parallel world, a dream, a trick, or a flashback. The only thing I can confirm is that it will be spectacular as two of our greatest stars reunite for a battle of a lifetime." And he's basically said, what on earth is happening? That's in Rusty Davis's comment from the news post. What was your first thought when this news broke, like about what this might be and why these two characters would be returning?
My first thought, which has changed since, and we'll talk about why later when we talk about the filming, but my first thought was missing adventure. Day of the Doctor style missing adventure. I don't think I wouldn't have thought it was parallel worlds or like a lot of people have thought or theorized. And in general, actually, I have an issue with the notion of bringing David Tennant back via the meta-crisis Doctor. Yes. I know that's incredibly logical because it would explain why he's aged. But one, I think that story is best left kind of where it is. I think it's more satisfying to imagine whether they worked or didn't work, that Doctor and Rose. But also, I just think if I'm in their position, I am partly looking at all of this as we need to get this show back up to the top. We need to find a way to make this more accessible, reach more audiences, and get get better viewing figures than, as I repeatedly keep saying, getting beaten in the ratings by a repeat of Antiques Roadshow, which it did over Easter. RTD, for me, is clever enough to know...
I've still not seen that episode.
Well, yeah, exactly. And thus proving my point, and you're a big fan. The RTD is too clever to know that the way to do that is not to go further up the show's own arse in terms of mythology. And let me tell you, having to work out having to set up and explain and remind who the Meta-Crisis Doctor is, a story that took place over 15 years ago now, is not the way you bring that. You've got to go simple, concise. It's got to not be too heavy. And I know that on paper, Day of the Doctor, I know the argument against this is, well, in the Day of the Doctor, Billy Piper played an embodiment of Bad Wolf. But if you watch that episode in isolation, it's a button and it's talking. Like, it's not complicated.
She played the embodiment of the moment. She said to call her
Yes.
Bad Wolf, I think, at one point. Or she pulled those words out of the air. But she was playing a being known as the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, she was a talking button. And the show, all the show has to do is go, talking button. And I just think, I never for once thought or wanted it to be anything that complicated, because I don't think at this point in time, it's the point in time to go complicated. And Russell knows that. Russell has always wanted Doctor Who to be the biggest show on TV. You can defend the ratings, you can defend changing formats in how people view things, and how, iPlayer needs to be taken into account, and it's not all about the ratings, etc., etc. I think it is reached an indefensible point to try and ever claim that Doctor Who is as big as it was, and that Doctor Who is the biggest Saturday night show on TV. And that's what Russell wants it to be. And I personally think that's one of the reasons he's back, because it's like, no, fuck it. Like, let's roll up our sleeves and let's do this. I'm gonna get Doctor Who back, baby. And in order to get Doctor Who back, baby, you can't be that complicated. So my first thought was missing story. It's as simple as, multiple doctors running around having a good old time, like Day of the Doctor.
Even forgetting what you might assume Russell's game plan is or goals are with this, which I happen to agree with your assessment of what Russell is probably hoping to achieve with the show. But then again, you could argue that should be anyone's goal. Like, Chibnall should, I assume, as a sensible human being, should have taken over going, I want to make this a huge show. I want to make this a bigger show than it currently is. No one takes over a role like that and hopes to fail. So, yeah.
Hey, but mate, look at Chibnall's first series. If interviews he's given are to be believed, and he didn't have, things like the Fugitive Doctor mapped out, Chibnall's first series is designed for it to be a massive show. It's all stories, story of the weeks. It's episodic. It looked more beautiful than the show's ever looked. Genuinely,
no, it has, no question that visually speaking, the Chibnall era has been the best. Closely followed, actually, I think, by the latter half of the Capaldi era. But yeah,
completely. So Chibnall did design it to be the biggest show, in Britain,
right.
And then it just fell apart.
But even taking that out of account, right? Like, even saying well, I don't know what Russell's game plan is because I'm not Russell. I can only go for what he said, whatever, right? Even if you're discounting all of that, my genuine first thought when looking at this was that he would want to lean into simplicity because, quite frankly, that's what he did comparatively to his predecessors. Or maybe not Chibnall, but comparative to Moffat, Russell kept the show very accessible. One of the bigger complaints of Moffat's later years, particularly the latter half of Matt Smith's tenure, was that the show got too complicated. That it was not as easy to just jump in and out on a Saturday night if you wanted to, because it was layered in layers and layers of time nonsense and plots that you were only getting pieces of here and now, and if you missed one of the pieces, it just made no sense anymore. I know a lot of people that stopped watching towards the end of Matt Smith's tenure. I know a lot of people credit Capaldi for sort of turning a lot of people off, but I do think Moffat did a lot of the damage towards the end of Matt Smith. Certainly for certain casual viewers. So you look at Russell's era, which I recently rewatched, and it's like the simplicity of his writing in general. I mean, a season story arc for him was Bad Wolf or Vote Saxon. Barely a season arc at all. Just a few hints sprinkled in across a season. You know, like, they've mentioned Torchwood again. I think that word was said in a previous episode. That could be something. And then it turned out to be something. But you didn't know that at the time. Like, you look at so Russell's, his history indicates Russell's writing style leans to simplicity. So that's why my first thinking was that. And just in general, my first thought on this news was that it was great. Because to me, I think and this was very much indicated as being, I think they described it as being scenes for part. So here you go. If they're filming scenes that are due to air in 2023 to coincide with the show's 60th anniversary celebrations. So this is clearly for the anniversary. So in my head, I went, this is perfect. We have the 60th anniversary next year. Russell's going to go all out, get all of the self-indulgent fanboy stuff out of the way. Not just for his own era, maybe, but for other eras as well. Do a bunch of stuff that just looks back at what the show has been, celebrates what the show is, and ends with it looking forward, bringing in our new Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, and introducing a clean slate, or mostly clean slate, for a new era of the show. What's so genius about that is we're going to have a reboot point, essentially, at the end of all of this. So what you do is you bring back all the fans that were into the show a billion years ago that have dropped off. You create headlines, you excite those people, and then you create a new fan base with someone like Ncuti, who clearly I've seen a lot of people, and there's a second news story from this week which we'll talk about, which I've also seen a lot of people saying, I'm going to watch Doctor Who now. There are people out there who are fans of Ncuti Gatwa who are, and of Yasmin Finney, who are now turning to iPlayer to go like, well, what the fuck is this thing? So I think Russell's plan is genius, because it will bring in the old fans and then give us a nice clean slate for new ones to jump onto. It's the best of both worlds. You literally couldn't ask for a more perfect way to bring the show back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Then we got the set stuff. Well, actually, we should talk about Yasmin Finney, actually, because that was before we got a lot of the set stuff, or alongside. But they also announced Yasmin Finney, an actress from a show called Heartstopper, which I have to admit I have not seen, but it's clearly very big. She's very big on TikTok, and actually we should have known they were going to do that, because about 12 hours before they announced Yasmin Finney, they launched a Doctor Who TikTok page, which I actually assumed they already had one. Turns out they didn't, and they were only following one person. Chris, I'll give you a guess who it was. It was Yasmin Finney, and no one noticed. No one noticed until after they announced it. Someone, oh look, they're following her. Oh, they're only following one person. Oh, we should have guessed. So, Yasmin Finney joining the cast. I've got the announcement for that here. Very quickly, I'll read it just so we've done the news bits. Showrunner Rusty Davis added, life on Doctor Who gets brighter and wilder, and how can there be another Rose? So the character is called Rose. You'll find out in 2023. It's an absolute joy to welcome Yasmin to the Doctor Who set. We all fell in love with her in Heartstopper, one of those shows which changes the world, and now Yasmin can change the Whoniverse. So there you go. So yeah, how do we feel about that casting? Anything that struck you about that? I mean, my initial thought before anything came afterwards was maybe new companion. A little bit confused at the choice of the name Rose, but Russell addressed it, which means he knows it's him on purpose. He said, "How can there be another Rose?" So yeah, I don't know. I'm very excited. I think it's great. I think it's great casting.
The how can there be another Rose made me, because again, simplicity. For me, it's not a parallel Earth Rose Tyler or anything like that. It may be, but in my head, it wouldn't be. Because also, quick side note, if I was showrunner, I'd go down the multiverse route with Doctor Who, because I think multiverse stuff. Doctor Who is so prime for multiverse stuff.
I can just see that Will Ferrell meme now. Multiverse stuff is so hot right now.
But exactly. But again, I think Russell's cleverer than that, because
right.
I wouldn't do it now. You couldn't do it. And it's such a shame, because actually, Doctor Who did a parallel world story 10 years ago before all this other multiverse stuff. But someone coming in now and literally going, hey, I got one. the multiverse, like people are just going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like everyone's
literally
doing that.
two of the top 5 films in the UK right now are multiverse movies.
Yeah, you just couldn't do it. So I always assumed they were connected to someone who knew or maybe couldn't remember. I lent towards them being more connected to Donna than Shooty, even before the rest of the stuff came out. But it's great. I've not seen Heartstopper yet. It's on the list. It should probably be. It's one of those really weird ones where basically Dan and I are doing an episode of the podcast coming soon in 2 weeks where we go back to shows that we missed that might, on paper at least, could be static contenders. And Heartstopper to me, is Heartstopper, isn't it? Yeah. Falls into the other category of shows that came out just before the statics. Oh no, actually it was April. Maybe that should annoyingly be on that list that is already too big. Anyway, point is we've not got to Heartstopper yet, but I definitely intended to watch it. I am really excited by this casting.
To be fair, Chris, we'll have 2 weeks or a week or so between the end of the next episode and the statics themselves, if we wanted to do that.
Yeah, so we could maybe try.
We could try and fit it
anyway,
in.
We'll talk. But
anyway, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, because it might be good to. But yeah, no, I know how warmly received Heartstopper is, so I'm very excited by this casting. She seems like a great actress.
Yeah, and I hate to. This is gonna sound bad, but I'm very excited that the actress has such a following, like such a young, excitable following. I think Doctor Who needs new fans, and while that sounds very like a fucking executive being like, I hear she's big on TikTok, I hate that I sound like that. But as someone watching, watching a show I love and think should last forever, potentially go away because ratings are pretty low and interest is reasonably low and it's not selling to as many international markets as it used to. They've stopped doing the box sets of the season. There's places in Europe that they've decided they're not releasing a Flux box set because of low purchases of the previous ones. Like that when you imagine that for like the Matt Smith era or the Tennant era or even parts of the Capaldi era, I'm like that seems insane that would be the case. So
if someone being big on TikTok can get the United Kingdom a second place result in Eurovision.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
then
exactly.
I will make any decision possible based on TikTok followers.
And look, and here's the thing. If everyone was saying to me, yeah, she's big on TikTok, but she's never acted before, or yeah, she's big on TikTok, but she's terrible in this thing, I'd have a different opinion on it. But by all accounts, also a great actress. So like... What do you want from me? Like, this is a person that almost everyone is universally praising for their acting talents, and they have an audience. Yeah, please. Yeah, that person. Thank you. Like, you literally couldn't ask for more. I don't understand. But before we get into like the spoilers, do you want to? Have you seen the leaked casting? Not leaked, but like the casting call that seems to be for this character that she's playing? Because I don't know if
I'd class that as,
or do you count this as spoilers?
Yeah, I'd count that as spoilers because it is information outside of what has been officially released.
I see. Okay, so in that case,
can I just add? Because I don't want anyone to think I've done anyone an injustice here. Sam Ryder, who was second place in Eurovision, also has an incredible voice and is a brilliant personality. It's not just about TikTok.
Third, Chris. There were some irregularities in the voting. I think they think he might have been third in the end.
Was there? I haven't seen that. Oh,
yeah.
Dear.
Well, that's what I read yesterday. I'm going to hold my hands up as to not having my finger on the pulse of Eurovision. But I saw, voting irregularities discovered, and I clicked on it expecting it to be some idiot going like, oh, the Ukraine shouldn't have won. It should have been the UK, but it was the opposite. It was the UK should have been third, apparently. But I don't know if that's true. But yeah, I don't know. You'll have to look into that afterwards and let me know. Anyway. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on just the castings in general. Obviously, I echo what I said on the other podcast, which is this news comes with the minor caveat that I am slightly frustrated that we still don't know what form any of this is going to take, when any of this is going to arrive. The vagueness of, just tell us when there's going to be an episode. I don't need to know like the date. Just be like, oh, we're doing a Christmas special. Oh, we're doing an Easter special. Oh, we're doing we're doing something in November. Just give me a date, a rough window for when this is and what this is, and refer to it as such. Because not knowing the structure of it is the biggest problem for me right now. It's hard to get excited for something so nebulous.
I'm so on a high, man. Like, I don't even care about that at the moment because I'm just like, I was doing it the other night. I was, and this is what we'll come on to, why sort of we know all the stuff we're about to talk about. And there's a lot of great YouTubers doing a lot of great work. Shout out Mr. TARDIS.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. TARDIS did a big live stream, and I don't normally watch his live streams, but he did a live stream Monday this week that covered a lot of the stuff we're going to cover today. It's a really great live stream. He also reviewed some very interesting sounding Big Finish box sets at the end that made me want to listen to some of those. He's very good. He's very good, Mr. TARDIS.
The other night, last night, there was someone, and this hasn't even been confirmed. This is just a fun example to lead us into the madness of it. Last night, someone tweeted, and they could have been bullshitting, but if it does turn out to be true, from this point on, we're going to talk about filming and casting call-outs, and we're going to talk about more than what's been officially released. So our headline statement, if you don't want those spoilers on what's officially been released, awesome, very exciting, cannot wait to see more David Tennant. And because we didn't really we talked more about theorizing of when their stuff takes place. Fundamentally, if I could have a doctor and a companion, maybe not a doctor, but if I could have any companion back, I'm having Donna back. Like, I cannot wait.
Me too.
And the fact that it's both of them just makes it feel so exciting. So, yeah I think the headline non-spoiler thought would be just so excited for what this could be.
Yeah, I think the doctor I'd have back would probably either be McGann or Smith.
Yes, I would echo that as well.
No.
Actually, another side note, I'm getting excited and rambling. I was thinking, like, this was weeks ago, like, just that fantasy, what would I do with the 60th thought? And one logical idea I had was Donna gets, like, taken by some alien, or not some alien, but, like, the master equivalent of that series or whatever. Donna is taken because I thought it was a really clean way to explain why you haven't got Eccleston. Because basically you'd have everyone from Tennant, because they all knew Donna, and they all go to try and, like, find her. And
that makes sense.
They all come in one by one and go, "Where's Donna Noble?" And then
it's some sort of creature the Doctor has crossed paths with that we haven't seen. That's like he lives outside of time, so all of the Doctors become alerted to her being missing at the same time and go outside of time to fight him or whatever. Yeah, you could easily do something like that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why you don't have any of the other Doctors. But so this is so someone tweeted last night. They tweeted, and this could just be pure bullshit. They could have been lying, but they tweeted, "Oh my god, I've just met Peter Capaldi at Houston Station." And what then followed was a bunch of other people claiming to have met Peter Capaldi at more and more obscure places, which was quite funny. Like, someone was tweeting like, "Can people stop meeting Peter Capaldi, please?"
So, to add to that, I will say, to clarify, Euston Station is near a location that there was filming happening at in the last couple of days. That's not just I've seen Peter Capaldi. He's still around. He must be in Doctor Who. That was specifically linked to London filming that was occurring at the time. But my favourite meme about that is then people posting pictures of Euston Station with various characters photoshopped in. My favourite being the Pating. The Pating. Guys, I just went to Euston Station and look who I saw, and it's a Photoshop of Euston Station with the Pating in it. I loved it so much. So I've enjoyed some of the memes that have come from this. It's good fun. Oh, the Absorbaloff as well from Love and Monsters. It's a good one.
So the reason I understand and do agree with you about I'd want clarity. The reason part of me is less bothered about that is because that led to me searching for the Doctor Who hashtag. I like happened to wake up.
Are we going into spoilers now? Are we warding people off? Are we heading into the filming stuff?
Yeah, I've already warned people. That's why I did a big warning and then a headline thought of Tennant and
Yeah, but then we got off track, so I'm just because we got off track. We're coming back to spoilers now. We're actually going to start talking about them. So anyone who followed the tangent, because the tangent was kind of spoiler free, now we're breaking that. So from here, it's just stuff that you would only know if you were following leaks or pictures from the sets. And carry on, Chris.
So, and the reason I don't care is because I was up at like 2 a.m. like checking the Doctor Who hashtag, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what this feels like. Like, I
being excited for Doctor Who again. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, but being so excited that, like, you're looking at set photos and zooming in on things, and the joy of, like, Rachel Tallahy, who, has denied directing and then tweeted something to suggest she was directing. Like, I saw a video.
Well, she then added, by the way, a very good thing, which is, I'm still under an NDA, so, like, no questions, please. You know what's going on. I can't, like... I can't break an NDA. So I do respect her honesty, but also her, like, okay, you caught me. I've been photographed on set. You know I'm directing, but like, you had to leave it there.
There was literally a video of fans cheering her and her waving and smiling and sort of like doing the like, oh yeah, no, you got me, shush kind of thing.
Yes,
and I was like, fucking hell, we're at a point. And so for those that don't know, she directed World Enough and Time, The Doctor Falls, some fantastic episodes of the show. And, like, the fact that we're at a point where the director is getting cheers and I'm getting excited about who's directing the episodes and looking at set pictures. One of the reasons I don't care is because I've just not felt this in so long. And I even knowing Russell T Davies was coming back and getting exciting, I don't think if you'd have asked me, I'd have said you and I would have got anywhere near the level of following the rumours and the set pieces and all of that stuff like we were kind of Series 4, Series 5 time.
I've got to tell you, Matt Smith's series was the absolute height of my obsession. It was checking Gallifrey Base every day, looking at set pics. I knew exactly what every single episode of that series roughly contained. Before that series started airing, because I was so on it with the rumours and leaks and like the set photos. The only episodes I didn't know much about were the ones that were entirely done on closed sets, but even those I knew a certain amount about, which is like insane. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
And this is, I never thought I'd feel like there are episodes of Doctor Who that I haven't seen. There are episodes of Whittaker's second series that I still haven't seen. And I've watched Flux and I've watched the specials, but I've just not gone back and watched them. So I didn't feel I was never done with the show, and I was never done with... I was always excited about Russell T Davies, but the reason I'm this is my long-winded way of saying, the reason I'm not so bothered about the nuances is because I'm just so excited to be feeling this way again. That's such a buzz and something I didn't think I would feel again.
Agreed.
And that's just awesome.
So let's quickly cover the main headlines from the shooting, and then maybe do a bit of speculation about what we think is going on. So for those who do not know, a few different key things that have been noted from the shoot, the sort of photos and videos taken from while they've been shooting. The biggest initial announcement was Bernard Cribbins. Wilf was on set. He was seen in a wheelchair being sort of pushed into the TARDIS as a stagehand yelled "boom" in a really dull, bored manner to give them a reaction moment, like a signal for the actors to react to an explosion. That was David Tennant's Doctor and Donna getting in. We've also seen Sylvia. We've also seen, oh god, I forget his name, Temple Noble. Oh god.
The character is Sean Temple Noble.
Sean Temple Noble, which is Donna's husband from that very small but very wonderful scene from her last episode. Actually, was that technically her last episode? No, she came back once more, didn't she?
No, he was seen throughout the End of Time. He wasn't just in the final scene. He was featured throughout the End of Time, which was her final episode.
So that whole thing with the lottery ticket and what have you, that's all wonderful. So he's in it. So basically, by having him in it and having Wilf but older and in a wheelchair, I think we're sort of ruling out Missing Adventure. unless
Yeah.
unless it's the Doctor before he goes to his death. Between Waters of Mars and End of Time. Oh no, because then we still no, because he's still not seen Donna, has he? This has got to be post his regeneration for both characters, is what I'm forced to conclude.
Donna is, we've not seen much, but Donna pushing and running with Wilf into the TARDIS suggests Donna knows who the Doctor is, what the TARDIS is, etc.
What's going on? Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, go on.
The other big thing, just to quickly list them from this, the shoot, just so we get them out of the way, then we can talk about generally what we think this all means. There were posters seen with December dates on, so it looks like it's going to be set in or around Christmas. They were deliberately Doctor Who posters. They weren't just old posters that happened to be in the background. One of them was for the store that Rose used to work for in the first series, whatever that department store was called, the one that blew up. I guess they rebuilt it since then. Then we see the Doctor he has a new outfit on. He's got this like sort of tartan suit instead of the pinstripe one. He's got a brown coat. No, sorry, a blue coat instead of the brown coat. And he appears in the most recent pictures that we got today to be holding a new design for Sonic Screwdriver, which was a bit strange. So all of this together leads me to think that we're not getting a missing adventure. It doesn't rule out technically much else, but I do think the missing story thing is pretty much ruled out.
Yeah.
A dream, a trick, a flashback, a parallel world, sure. All of those still on the table.
Well,
but
we also, further evidence for that while
Yes.
we're going through the things, you referenced the casting call. So there was
yes.
Andy Pryor's Doctor Who, who's cast, Doctor Who for the entire time it's been on. He put out a casting call for a transgender actor that would be that would have mixed race parents and would have, I can't remember what the details described. But
I've got it here in front of me if you'd like me to read from it. So Andy Pryor casting are currently searching for a young UK-based trans femme actor, young-looking 17, 18-year-old to play 15, which I'm going to point out that number very specifically, to play 15, because of the number of years that have passed since we last met Donna, of very relevant mixed black and white heritage. The character has one black British parent, one white British parent, for a very nice guest lead role in a major BBC drama. The character was listed as being called Lily, I assume to... we know the character is called Rose now, but obviously Rose, Lily... I think it's pretty clear who they were casting. So the description for the character is Lily is clever, creative, and confident. That said, Lily does feel the weight of being perceived as different, but doesn't let it get in her/their way. Lily is caring, thoughtful, and very perceptive. An incredibly fast learner who will do anything they can look after those who are important to them. Sorry, I'm terrible at reading. Why did I offer to read this? Lily has grown up in London, so accent can be anything from strong London to a neutral RP or MLE. Multicultural London English, apparently, is what that stands for? Who knew? Must be available to film for several weeks, May to June 2022, which is when they're shooting now. So she's been seen on set. And so goes the rumour. No one's got video of this, but the big reveal, or not reveal, but the big piece of thing was that a lot of people on Twitter yesterday were claiming she was one point heard shouting "Mum" to the Donna character played by Catherine.
And that's the reason I bring it up while we're listing evidence is because, as Dan indicated by the 15, it was 15 years ago, and that description certainly sounds like it's describing Donna and Sean's child, which is the other reason to rule out missing adventure, because that would suggest 15 years has passed, they've got a child, and she's playing their child. So that's why I slipped it in there, because it's obviously more fuel for that fire, which I think has led Dan and I to the same conclusion, which I think he was about to say, so I will let him say what he was building to rather than take his point.
Maybe.
I thought you were basically building to. So basically, I think you and I are now in a position.
Oh yes,
where we believe previously dismissed rumours and leaks that in fact potentially Jodie Whittaker will regenerate into David Tennant.
Yeah, I
who
think
then
a few
bumps
people.
into Donna, etc.
Yeah, I think a few people have given this as an idea now, but I text Chris like the first day we were seeing set photos, and my pitch was the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, regenerates, and at first is like, maybe even goes back to a few old, like, new teeth, that's weird, and doesn't like, or maybe goes old teeth, like, doesn't understand, looks in a mirror, sees that they're David Tennant, and says, what? Like, and that's where we end. That could be how we do this, because what we're essentially saying is, the most likely explanation, because it is... Oh, and in fact, sorry, one detail, very important detail we missed. The TARDIS is Jodie's TARDIS. The exterior of the TARDIS is Jodie's exterior, not David's. So that would, again, very much suggest. So it seems, from all of that what is happening is that the Doctor... that something has gone wrong during the regeneration. They haven't completed the regeneration... time fractured during it, something went weird, something to do with their memories maybe, because obviously it's all about memories with Jodie's Doctor because she's missing memories or whatever, but something goes off and she ends up becoming David, and the mystery of this is going to be why, how, and it's going to end with David maybe completing the regeneration and becoming Shooty as the 14th. A lot of people concerned that it fucks up the numbering, to which I reply, really? At this point? We got fugitive doctors and war doctors running about, and you're like, I don't like this, because that makes Tennant 10 and 14. Well, it doesn't, does it? He's not going to get a full series. He's not going to run around as the Doctor for more than whatever these specials are. And then I want to very quickly read the leak from a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to pass back to you, Chris, to get your thoughts on all this. So, for those who don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, 14 days actually, 2 weeks ago, actually looking at it here, somebody on Reddit posted this, and at the time it was dismissed, but it now fits a lot of what we have learnt. A friend of mine works at Bad Wolf and has let slip some details about the upcoming 60th anniversary plans. This is 100% accurate, so if you want to avoid spoilers, do not click below. David Tennant and Catherine Tate are back for 3 specials after Jodie regenerates into David on a cliff top. The 3 stories are linked by the Doctor working out why he's got his old face back, why he runs into Donna again after all the years. Unit are back for the first episode. It's a simple alien invasion story. The main emphasis on the Doctor reuniting with Donna again after 15 years for her. Sylvia and Sean return. Wolf was mentioned, but I don't know if he appears because Bernard Cribbins is now 93. Donna also has a daughter called Rose. Rachel Talalay also directs the first special. Oh, and a classic companion returns in the final special, but I don't want to ruin that surprise. That's all I know for certain, but I imagine something will be announced in the next few weeks as filming begins. Now, so much of that has turned out to be true, and this is posted well before we saw Rachel Talalay on set, or had it announced that there was going to be a character called Rose. Starting to think this is pretty much bang on. So how are you feeling about the accuracy of all this, or that interpretation of everything that we've seen so far?
I've kind of 180'd on it, because I think so. When we first discussed the idea of David Tennant coming back, we weren't fans of the idea, and I still kind of stand by the reasons we weren't fans of the idea. But one of the things that's so clever, I think, and one of the reasons I also think they did this, and makes it for me even more likely that what you've just described is what's happening, is they have announced Shooty. They have given us who the next Doctor is. This isn't David Tennant is playing the 14th Doctor. This is the 13th Doctor regenerates into their former self. Like, that for me is different to the original notion. And I think the fact that David Tennant and Catherine Tate were filming the day after the press release of their return came out, and a week after Shooty was announced. So I think that was them going, right, everyone, if we don't announce Shooty, everyone is going to assume that David Tennant is the 14th Doctor. Whereas if we announce Shooty, then it's David Tennant's coming back for the 60th in some form. If we also announce Shooty, it means the general public that aren't following all of this stuff are going to go, what the fuck? When the Doctor regenerates into David Tennant. So I think the fact that Shooty was announced and then a week later David and Catherine were filming kind of also lends itself to the notion that this all may be true. And if it is true, I just think it's fucking genius. It's such a good, especially if it does mean, because the other thing is, when we were discussing it before, there wasn't the notion of there being more than one thing for the 60th. You know, the original press release for Davy said the 60th anniversary and series beyond. And maybe that, you know, has changed since, or was put deliberately to confuse people, as Davies likes to do.
Did they say 60th anniversary special singular, or did they just say for the 60th anniversary, and we all assumed a special? I'd be curious. I mean, look, while you keep talking, I'm going to actually check the phrasing on that.
Yeah, so I think if it's this, it's just so, because it's so, the notion, and again, you know, thinking or talking like producers, or from a producer's point of view, not a creative point of view, but the notion of we need to bring the show back with a bang, we need to get it to where it was. Okay, let's revisit this generation of Who's fans, Tom Baker. Like, let's what's the biggest guns we can pull out? Tate and Tennant, let's do it. But not only that, so not only as a fan who wants the show to be one of the biggest shows on television, does it get me excited, also, it's a clever idea from a creative point of view. Why has this happened? How has it happened? What does it mean that this has happened? What does it mean to bump into Donna again? Like, is her head going to explode every 5 minutes? Probably not. They'll wave that away with some sort of RTD hand-waving magic nonsense, and that'll be amazing, because it will be RTD magic-waving hand nonsense that haven't seen that in years. Or Doctor Who, at least. Although, again, from a creative perspective, you know, I agree with everything you're saying about his Doctor Who stories. They were really simple. But, you know, having seen some of the stuff he's done since, I'm like, well, maybe these won't be as simple. Like, who knows what that's going to be? Every element of this, from a creative perspective, is really, really exciting. So, for me, if that is it, and it means that we're getting more, and as Dan said earlier, you build up excitement and then you reset for the new Doctor in the strongest possible position, then I'm all in. My only stipulation is I do want also, as well as the three with Tate and Tennant, I would want one of them at least to be a multi-Doctor special, where we also have Smith and Capaldi. And if we're doing 3 and then the 60th, or there's episodes in between the centenary and her appearance, Whittaker as well.
Yeah.
And whether degenerating or going back through them and you have a whole special with them, I don't know. I would just like to... It's the 60th. I would like to see those characters on screen together. I am so much more up for the idea of the Doctor's gone back a generation. Why? Than David Tennant is playing the 14th Doctor. And
yes, that is an important distinction, I think.
Yeah, and that is a distinction that has now been made.
Because what's the difference between science fiction time travel nonsense means David Tennant meets Matt Smith, and Jodie Whittaker, her body shifts into David Tennant briefly before she moves on to her next incarnation? I mean, like, it's just science fiction MacGuffins, isn't it? It doesn't matter. Like, as long as the next Doctor, when there's a series, he's a new person, not David Tennant. That's my problem with it, is just gone as a concept. It's fine. To clarify as well, I'd like to read the exact phrasing on this statement put out by Doctor Who production team when they announced Russell T Davies coming back. Russell T Davies will make an explosive return to celebrate the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who in 2023 and series beyond.
Yeah. So
they didn't say specials, they didn't say special, they didn't say anything of that nature. Just to celebrate the 60th anniversary. Now, I would like to input one other thing into this about like what these potential specials are. I think if there are multiple specials, I think it's pretty clear we're getting a Christmas special. Russell always said he loved the Christmas specials and that they existed, so it would not surprise me based on timing. Because look, the original thought we were, they're filming this, and I'm going, this is November 2023 if it's the anniversary special, which we know it's to do with the anniversary because the logo they put up to announce this, or to tease this, had the blue box, but on it in a diamond shape, because the 60th anniversary is, of course, the diamond anniversary. So, by those old stupid anniversaries being something, rules like 10 years is paper or something, I can't remember. They're dumb. Anyway. So if it is multiple specials, and we've seen posters on the wall on the set suggesting this is happening in or around December, and all the characters have been filmed wearing like big coats and stuff, and like woolly hats and things, even though it's absolutely boiling in Camden where they've been filming, and I feel bad for all of them because it's been really hot. There's lots of photos of David just like with his suit jacket and his coat off, just like in his sunglasses, like looking like he wants to die. I feel bad for the man. Anyway, so if this is Christmas, then arguably you follow the usual pattern when the Doctor Who switches to specials, which is Christmas, Easter, and then sort of Halloween or November. November being the actual direct anniversary of the show. So that would fit with this 3 specials thing. I'm not 100% convinced, though. This person, who's clearly gotten the information second-hand, didn't get their wires crossed, though.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
It being a special per Doctor.
I wonder. Is it a special that involves David and Catherine, and a special that maybe Karen and Matt pop back into the TARDIS for a week for a special, celebrating the last 10-15 years of the show? Then we do Capaldi, and let's be realistic, I'm hoping Bill. Oh, no, you can't do Bill or Nardole.
Yeah, you can do Bill and Nardole.
Well, not if we're doing the Doctor as becoming like switching through.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Because then we're honouring their endings, aren't we? And their endings were not as undoable as Donna's. Donna's ending, you make up a science fiction MacGuffin and she's fine again. Remove that part of her brain or whatever, suck out the Time Lord information so she can know it all again and not die. Whatever, science fiction MacGuffin. She's technically alive to do it. Bill and Nardole did not have quite as recoverable an end. But
well, I'll tell you what then. For Capaldi, Michelle Gomez.
Yes, please. I'd love to see Michelle Gomez again. Or even bring back Jenna Coleman, I suppose. I say that with negativity because I just think the character of Clara was mishandled. You can't make the companion a MacGuffin. It doesn't really work.
To be fair, whilst it's cleaner than the character died, it's not drastically different to Bill in that she is paused in the heartbeat between life and death and travelling around with Maisie Williams in a TARDIS.
Paused in the moment between heartbeat and death is also MacGuffinable away. I've invented a stasis box. You stick this in your pocket and you'll be able to travel around me for a bit.
It's certainly more difficult with those. It's interesting, isn't there? There's a Frank Skinner interview with Russell T Davies where he doesn't say anything negative, but he is asked about how he felt about the Day of the Doctor sort of taking away some of the mystery and undoing the Time War a little bit, although I would argue it doesn't undo the Time War. It just reframes it. But anyway, and Davies sort of goes, "Oh, I was a bit surprised." I don't know. It's whether I don't think in the way that Moffat didn't change Tennant's ending, even to the point where he gave him the same final words. The fan in him really ringing out on that one, or winning out on that one. I'm not sure how willing Davies would be to change Bill or Clara's endings. So it's interesting, isn't it?
With that casting call suggesting that it was a sort of a guest lead role in a major BBC drama for this new Rose character, does she become the companion for the trilogy of specials for the 60th, where she follows Tennant's Doctor? Donna sort of becomes the Jackie Tyler of the situation, where she's sort of like the mum that's been left behind, and she's given a thumbs up for her daughter to travel with the Doctor. Off they go, and within minutes Tennant then shifts and becomes Matt Smith, and we do get Matt Smith back, but we don't undo Karen Gillan's end. Amy Pond's end.
Maybe. And then you keep her for Shooty as well. Potentially. I know the casting call didn't say that, but I love the notion of, because, and again, I know, talking talking from a producer perspective.
Oh, this is
but-
all just it's all weird. We're in the hypothetical zone now. This is all just
yeah,
baseless speculation. Now, this is just a sort of wish listing what we might do with it or what they might choose to do with it. So at this point, we're out of the realms of what's been known and we've stepped into the world of speculation. We should have pinpointed that so listeners don't think we're talking about rumor or stuff that's been clarified.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you with the notion of, shows, there with a bang for the anniversary, brings loads of people back, and then you set up a great new Doctor and those people carry on after. But it's even better if you do, right, you saw 3 specials which you loved with this companion, and this companion is carrying on, and this companion is going to be with Ncuti, and that means there's a chance maybe there'll be some scenes with Donna as well, as we, return to her in the way that we did with Jackie every so often. Like, I think it's even better if you can continue a character through the specials and then through to the series beyond.
And how heartbreakingly wonderful would it be to have Donna, this character that it felt like her arc was always travelling with the Doctor, was because she wasn't very happy with her life, choose, when re-meeting the Doctor and regaining those memories, to stay, because now she's got Sean and her daughter. She's happy in her life now, because the whole thing with Donna was, I never want to leave. She never wanted to leave the TARDIS, but showing her so content with her life on Earth that she's happy to wave off her daughter and go travelling with the Doctor, knowing that she can trust the Doctor and it'd be an experience her daughter will never forget, but also, not choosing to go with him herself, because she's like, no, I've had my time doing that, and I'm actually happy with Sean, and I've found a life I really like. It would be such a satisfying end for Donna.
That has to be the end for her. Like, when I was doing my mythical what if it was me thinking, I was very much in the place of, well, I'd love to have Tate as a full-time companion for a series, but I don't buy that she would travel. It's a very upsetting end for the character if she chooses to then keep traveling with the Doctor, because as you say, what that end should be is, I've got Sean, I've got my life, and I'm truly happy.
That's exactly
and I think
right.
in my head you'd maybe do that with younger kids, but the notion of her having an older kid that then goes travelling with the Doctor is great, because then you can keep returning to her in the Jackie Tyler role, and I think that would be amazing. If you could just quickly, I've only just looked at the time, but I'd be all right for a little bit longer, 10 minutes or so. Just quickly, if it was going to be Missing Adventures, what pairings would you choose then?
If it was Missing Adventures, it's pretty straightforward, I think, for me. It's Bill Potts, Nardole, and 11. And 12. And then it's 11 with Amy and Rory, quite easily. And Jenna Coleman, sadly, doesn't get a look in. Sorry, Jenna.
I'd do the same, or I would do Missy, because I love the notion that I think what's really fun to play with in Multi-Doctor Story, which they haven't necessarily played with this element that much. They did a little bit in Day of the Doctor. I love the fact that the Doctor, only the kind of oldest Doctor will actually remember it, which means you can have a lot of fun. And I love the notion of the Doctor and Missy go on an adventure, and Missy stands with the Doctor, and then at the end of it, they go, well, you're not going to remember this anyway. And then Capaldi says, I think a bit of me will always remember that just once you stood with me. And the notion of it does what the Day of the Doctor did with the Time War. It doesn't change Missy and Capaldi's Doctor's ending, but it just reframes it slightly, that maybe the reason that Capaldi is so confident she can change is because a little voice in his head somewhere locked down knows that she did.
That's a great idea.
And I just like the idea of seeing that. So I'd probably pair Capaldi and Missy. But I probably wouldn't, because I want more Bill.
Yeah, I want more Bill. I also do think it's worth noting that if we are jumping back to Tennant and then pushing our way through, I actually think to really solidify that Ncuti is just the next Doctor, I also think we will get another shot, some more footage of Jodie. I think maybe at the end of this, maybe if it is 3 Tennant and Donna specials, when the solution to whatever's gone wrong with the regeneration is resolved, you'll see him poof and be Matt for a few minutes and poof and be, as like a big epic like end to the anniversary special where you have like almost like a brief moment with each Doctor, not like maybe full episodes, but like so you get Smith, you get Capaldi, and you get Jodie, and then Jodie gets to properly regenerate into Ncuti. That would really, I think, ease a lot of those people who are concerned at this idea that Tennant is essentially and technically the 14th, even though he isn't. I think that would help
to be fair,
resolve some of that.
If we have whole episodes in between Centenary and her appearing, I'd take an episode with Jodie, and I'd actually kind of in line with what I was just talking about. If Chibnall's story is Jodie's Doctor does want to be with Yaz, which, there's some spoilers for you. There's some dialogue in Legends of the Sea Devil which would, suggest this, and obviously in Eve of the Daleks. If Chibnall's story is Jodie wants to be with Yaz but just can't because, it could never work as a Time Lord, etc., and she can't do that to Yaz. The notion of she's not going to have to hold on to that, all hell with the consequences, even just for a moment, I'm going to be with Yaz, I think is potentially, although I suppose it's a bit unfair on the Yaz character now that I've said it out loud, like that's a bit cruel to do to Yaz. But just the notion of you could do a story where Jodie and Yaz are a bit more romantically involved, because the Doctor knows they're not going to hold on to no. The more I say it out loud, the more I think that's a dick move to Yaz. Nah, never mind. But my point is, I'd be happy to see an episode with Jodie, because I think there is... I'd love to see RTD take on the notion of the 13's relationship with Yaz.
I would like to see that, but I don't think we'll get that, because I think it's too soon for anyone to actually, like, touch what's been written. I think if we see Jodie, it'll be the quickest of any of them, and it'll be just, Capaldi becoming her, or Tennant returning back to her and getting a line at most or two in before then becoming Ncuti, just to sort of solidify that Ncuti is 14.
Maybe, but don't you also, same as me, want an episode where they're all together?
I do, but the more of this I see, the less I'm convinced that's what's going to happen. And if this is Russell's way of sort of going, of bringing old Doctors back without doing all the usual stereotypes of, they're in the same room and they don't get on, then I'm okay with that if we're still getting Tennant back or Smith or Capaldi. Yes, it's always fun to see the Doctors interacting, but if Russell has decided creatively he thinks that's a bit like done and wanted to try something different for an anniversary special, I'm up for that, because I trust Russell. So
it also makes me, and this is a bold one, which is probably going to prove to be wrong, but one other thing with the notion of a centenary special to me was always, how do you do a centenary special which is meant to in some way celebrate, the Doctor Who's history to some degree, because the very notion of it is, it's not going to be about the BBC, so you've got to celebrate the show's own history in some way. How do you do that without treading and then also celebrate the show's 60th? And there have been, and we're talking like just real, almost looking like, fake, like trolling, but there have been rumours that in the centenary special, the classic Doctors somehow make an experience.
Yeah, so Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Peter Davidson, and then those three specifically, right? Like, so we'll see.
This whole thing for me makes me a little bit edging closer to that might actually be true, because then the notion is that Chibnall, who clearly has a passion for the classic series, we know Tegan and Ace are in the centenary special, the way you do it is the centenary and Chibnall gets to celebrate the classic Doctors, and RTD has the modern era of the show for the 60th. So I may be proven wrong here, but I'd be more leaning to the notion that maybe we will see the classic Doctors in the centenary special, and then we celebrate the 60th with the modern Doctors.
And not to step away, but I know we need to wrap up soon. There's one more point we do need to cover. If this report from a leak is accurate, and they talk about how a classic companion returns for the final special, it's Susan, right? It's got to be Susan. We texted about this a couple of days ago, and we threw a bunch of other alternative options around. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing, Lila Ward come back as Romana. There's a bunch of potentials, but that's the one though, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, I don't think you get the gravitas from. Unfortunately, you can't have Sarah Jane. I don't think you get the gravitas from anyone else that isn't Susan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree. I think it would have to be Susan, and I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I've just seen some reports from the shoot last night that I hadn't seen before. Very quickly, Doctor bumps into a woman carrying a big tower of boxes that covers her face. He helps her with them by removing a few of them, and as he removes them, it's revealed to be Donna. Then she shouts for Rose, which confuses the Doctor, and then he looks and sees the new character Rose show up. He sort of shakes hands with her as Donna sorts out boxes. The on-set stage direction suggests a spaceship flies overhead and crashes nearby, which Donna doesn't see, presumably to keep up the joke that Donna misses things. That's fun. And then at that point, a taxi pulls up. It's got Sean in it. He calls for Rose. The Doctor runs to the taxi and ends up using it himself and says Alonzi as he gets inside. He's apparently was reported to be using his regular 10th Doctor accent, because some people had speculated, because he has tartan instead of pinstripe suit now, that means he's gonna be doing maybe a Scottish accent like he wanted originally, but that seems to be debunked. Yeah, that all sounds interesting. Yeah, it sounds very self-referential to all the in-jokes, but I'm okay with doing for these specials all the self-indulgent stuff if Russell gets it out of his system nicely before Shooty.
Yeah, and maybe Donna. I don't see how you can do a whole episode where Donna doesn't, in some version, get her memory back. Like, she's just fainting every 5 minutes. But that certainly suggests that Donna doesn't know who he is. Which
at least not at first.
It cannot be a missing adventure. It just can't be.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, especially not with if that report from the set is accurate. I'm super excited. I think there's so much potential. I'm like I said, as long as as long as we don't cross that line of like doing all the self-indulgent stuff and then letting that, I think, because all of this, if you were telling me this is just what was happening next, it's my nightmare for Rusty Davis's second era on the show. Like, just him just doing all the hits. I don't want that. I'm happy for that to be an anniversary special, or series of anniversary specials. I think that's a great way to honour the show's past. Although I'd like to make sure it wasn't just biased towards his era and included stuff from other eras too, which is what we've already discussed. But yeah, assuming that he contains it all to these 3 or 4 whatever specials and then moves us on, with that I'm happy.
Yeah, I think one positive sign for although it's a real sort of behind-the-scenes thing, but one positive sign for honouring all eras in a way is the fact that it's Rachel Tadley and not Euros Lyn directing. Because Euros Lyn was sort of his big director, did The End of Time, did, I think, Journey's End, etc. And actually did Heartstoppers as well. So, knows the cast is, mutual connections.
Well, it's the 3 specials. I doubt Rachel's doing all of them, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. We shall see.
She's not going to direct all 3 specials.
But my point is that, someone from Moffat's era is involved, which is, I think he knows that if it was literally three Tate Tennant specials, I think he'd know that he knows the slightly negative response that would get. I think fundamentally, I just really, really want Smith and Capaldi to be involved. And
I mean, my dream version of this is an episode representing each of the big 3 eras we've had prior to Jodie's. So I want a Smith episode and a Capaldi episode. Like, literally, the Doctor becomes Tennant, stumbles into Donna, like the universe is doing something weird, and he gets his moment with Donna, and like they get their little adventure together, and then he leaves, and he's Smith. and then he's bumping into Amy and Rory, and then that adventure finishes. We get to say goodbye to that era of the show, and then we into Capaldi, and we get a little coda for all the three of those big eras, because it really would then feel like we're celebrating particularly the last sort of 20 years of New Who, as much as we are celebrating the 60 years of the show in general. And I think that's a really fun idea. But I don't think that's what's going to happen, sadly, based on what we've seen so far and what we've heard so far. But that is what I think I would want most.
I've just realised there are two contenders for companions, if that is the case, for those episodes where you don't have to deal with any of the baggage that we've talked about with our choices. So with 11, you have River Song, and with 12, you have Clara, because it could be an alternative version of Clara from when she went in the time stream, and it's not the Clara we knew at the end. It's a Clara. Because, I mean, Clara, in a way, I know she's not, a fan favourite necessarily, but Clara's the easiest companion to bring back, because Clara interacted with every single Doctor, apparently.
Yes and no, though, because what I think will be satisfying about seeing Donna again is getting a little coda to Donna's story, right? Because a big problem...
completely agree.
One of the things these shows, these recent returns of various companions have had, is it's a lot of bitter companions that were abandoned in fields or whatever, coming back and being like, one day you just stop travelling with me because you're a dick. And it would be nice that if in the modern era we got to give each companion a sort of tied-off ending where we got to see them a few years later and see they're reasonably happy and well-adjusted, just so we know. And if you do just a time-displaced Clara, one of the many time-displaced Claras that are about, you get Clara back for an episode, but she wouldn't know who the Doctor is, and two, it wouldn't have any meaningful impact on Clara's story as a person. So I don't know if I would want that, even though it is simpler.
I agree, but I would also say I think less closure is needed for Bill and Clara than Donna or Amy and Rory.
Sure, fine. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's fair. So yeah,
because they have such wild endings. Like
100%.
Bill is flying through space with a woman who can turn into a teardrop.
Sorry, I forgot about that. My
you know what I
memory
mean?
of where Bill ends up cybered. But you're right, Bill gets built into her brain, gets put into a spaceship or something. I can't even remember. They live in like a virtual something or other.
The girl who went into a puddle puts a tear,
which sounds like a title for an episode of the TV show Raw. The woman who went into a puddle.
Put a tear in her eye, which then means she can materialize in a form that basically is traveling round and her end is she literally turns into stars and darts off. What I'm saying is, from a story point of view, it's difficult to sort of weave in.
Oh, that's good fun. That's good fun. So I think we've covered everything. I know you need to get on, and we've sort of had to do almost like an emergency podcast. Like I whipped out the bat phone yesterday, and you slid down a fireman's pole to get to your microphone to record this so suddenly. I guess
it's funny because Dad was like, "We'll do a half an hour." I was like, "Well, let's do a space where we could do an hour because it's never going to be half an hour."
Well, to be fair, when you said that, I expanded it because in my head we were just going to go straight into they've been filming on set. Let's talk about the Tate and Tennant reveals. But because you said we'll probably expand it, I kind of went, well, let's cover it in a way that's probably the best for a thing to listen to, which is start with just the news, the facts, and then slowly work our way through set stuff and what that likely tells us for sure, and then start speculating based on that, which is what we've done. And I think that's a really good structure for this conversation, so I'm happy it worked out that way.
It's been a good time, and I
think we'll probably keep doing it. I think, look, Ramblogue is great because it just means if we ever have something like this where we're just super excited to talk about something, why not just do one of these?
And we didn't get to announce this on the podcast because we hadn't agreed at the time. But the next episode of Nothing But Static, let me get the exact date, will be coming out on Sunday the 3rd of June. and we will be covering in our kind of could be Statics contenders, but we've not seen yet. We will be covering the Jimmy Savile Netflix documentary, Masters of the Universe, Revelations, Slow Horses, Landscapers, and Time. So yeah, come see us on the 3rd of June for that.
I've been assured by the internet that we don't need to watch Time Traveler's Wife. We'll probably review it in the new year, but it certainly doesn't seem like it's going to be Statics worthy.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be finished by the time the Statics come out, will it?
Does it have to be finished by? Oh yeah, it does. Otherwise, it counts for the year after. That's what we decided. I remember this. Anyway, so yeah, we are. Oh, we should also say very quickly, we are doing the Statics, which is our yearly award show. It's going to be live on this very YouTube channel. In whenever that will be.
On the 7th of June.
Well, no, we're going live on the 6th, aren't we?
Yep, you're right. The 6th of June. Sorry.
But the time we haven't figured out yet, because we need to have a chat about like when's the best time to do it in the day for us, but also like we want to try and get a time where like we've got listeners in a few different countries and we want to kind of make sure that we're getting an optimal time zone, so we're not reducing the chance for people to get a chance. But we'll get you guys a time shortly so you can all start planning if you want to join us. I would like I have a number of people I would like to be listening in my head, or watching live in my head at least one point. I know it'll fluctuate as it goes on, because it'll be a couple of hours worth of streaming at least. And I would like us to hit that. So I'm not going to tell people what that number is until the day, and I'll say at the end if we hit it or not. But I want.
Yeah, I think we're hoping for sort of 6 p.m. UK time, but we will confirm when we can confirm.
Yeah. Yeah, although the only problem with 6 p.m. UK time is it's the best time for both us and the States, which does cover the most of our listeners. So it's like early morning for anyone on the West Coast, East Coast. It's the afternoon. In the UK, it's in the evening. The only thing that I would be concerned about is we do have some listeners in the Philippines, and I think that would mean we'd be starting at 1 a.m. for our listeners in the Philippines. And let's be honest, mostly the very vocal listener in Bianca, who will probably kill us if we stream at that time again. But I'm sorry.
Oh, so would you suggest earlier then?
It's been a thought, but you don't want to go too early because you don't want to cut off the LA side of it. Yeah. So
well, and the if we go 4 o'clock, there'll be UK people that will still be at work. We'll discuss it on air. I don't know why we're doing it now, but we will work it out, and we will guarantee now we will do everything within our power. And there's a third party that has a right to get to be in this discussion that isn't here. But we will do everything in our power to try and suit everyone best we can.
Yes, absolutely we will. Yeah, we will. But yeah, I think you're right. Realistically, we have to go with the numbers, and the UK and the US are our biggest audiences. In terms of numbers, and yeah, so it seems like the fairest thing to do, the simplest thing to do, is to choose like early evening in the UK, which gives UK people a chance to listen, and then it's an hour in which people will be awake in the States, maybe at work, but awake. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the 6th. The 6th is like a Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Monday the 6th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, but yeah, thanks everyone for listening. This is, if you've either heard this in the Nothing But Static feed, if I've just shoved the audio on there just as a bonus episode, an unnumbered bonus episode, or you've listened to this on the YouTube channel, in which case please like and subscribe and do all those things. We're going to try and do more regular Ramblogues. I've got one I want to do where I talk about a pitch I have for what you do if you want to bring Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man. I think I've hinted at it or talked about it briefly before, but I've got a pitch for a movie and I'm really excited about it, and I want to talk about it. So it'll only be like a 10-15 minute thing, but I'm excited to chat about it and sort of get people's feedback. I just as a fun thought experiment. So I'll do that at some point. And I still need to do my reviews for the final Rocky films, because I did that. Do you remember? I reviewed half the Rocky movies and then forgot to review the others, even though I watched them. Dumb.
Nice.
Dumb. Anyway, all right. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll keep you up to date with any more Doctor Who stuff as it goes. I don't mind doing like an absolute ton of Doctor Who content in the build up to this, because it's something I'm very excited about, and hopefully you guys are on board for that too. Yeah. So awesome. Oh, they've just started filming again, Chris. Should we keep recording for the next few hours just in case there's more news?
I've done the thing where I go through stages where at first my initial stage is to sort of try and make everything I say a lead on to a wrap up. And then the next stage is to just make noises when you say something and not start a conversation, which usually backfires because you're capable of having a conversation with yourself. So now we're at the third stage, which is to just go, I need to go. So no, let's not talk about more casting.
Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
There you go.